Hi book friends, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour, a podcast about bookstores and everything bookish. I'm your host, Victoria Wood. In today's show, we'll be talking with Chris Saunders, and he's from HENRY SOTHERAN'S LTD, located in Mayfair, London. Today's episode is brought to you by Biblio, a new online directory for independent bookstores. They also list book clubs and bookish-related events. If you love the show and what we're doing over on Biblio and you want to help us support local independent bookstores, visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/bibliofinder. When you become a patron, you're helping us to list, advertise, and promote local independent bookstores worldwide. You'll also get perks such as access to our full podcast episodes, behind-the-scenes content, an opportunity to send in questions, get discount codes, shoutouts, plus more. That's patreon.com/bibliofinder. We'll also leave a link in the show details. Before we get started with today's episode, wherever you're listening, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a rating and review. When you do this, you're helping us to reach a larger audience, and it is one way you can help us to put independent bookstores at the forefront and make Biblio plus the show a success. Alrighty guys, let's talk with our guest. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
You're very welcome.
Welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you very much.
So before we get started, really quick, are you a coffee or a tea person?
Tea, definitely tea. Builder's tea, please.
Builder's tea,
Milk,
okay.
Milk, no sugar.
I'm sorry?
Milk and no sugar.
Milk and no sugar, okie dokie. Well, I'm having tea myself right now. I am having an English breakfast, which is my morning tea. Because
That's very good.
It's still it's before noon here at our side of the world, and yep, I have a cup of tea to start my day.
Good.
Alrighty. Well, tell us about your bookstore, where you're located, and share a bit about your town.
Okay, well, HENRY SOTHERAN'S LTD was actually founded in 1761 in York, which is obviously the north of England.
Yep.
We've been in London since 1805. And we've been in our present location since 1936. And where we are is in Mayfair, just off Piccadilly, around the corner from the Royal Academy, about 2 minutes from Piccadilly Circus. So right in the middle of central London, with all sorts of jolly things around us. Buckingham Palace isn't far away, and Green Park is just at the end of the road. So we get lots of tourists. We get lots of art lovers who've been to the Royal Academy. We get lots of people who've been to buy nice things at Fortnum & Mason and those other sort of legendary shops that we have around us. So yeah, it's a very nice place to work. Obviously, London is a great city, and we're in a very lovely part of it.
Oh, sounds that way, for sure. How did you get in the bookstore business by chance?
I got into it, as most people do, completely by accident. So I'd finished a PhD, and I couldn't really find anything I wanted to do, except I really loved old books. So I wrote to various booksellers saying, do you have any work going? And Sotheran's at that point had a Saturday job going. So 15 years ago, I started as a Saturday boy, and now here I am as a managing director. So, yeah, right place at the right time, really.
Oh, sounds like you got the perfect start, and here you are 15 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say is your specialty as a bookstore? What do you provide? What do you look for? What can customers expect walking in?
Okay. Well, as a bookstore, we're quite general. We try to cover sort of classic literature, but we have specialities in children's books. We do some very beautiful children's books. We also do travel books and natural history books. And we also stock sort of prints and posters. So what I think you would expect from us when you come in is quite a colourful shop, because we have these lovely children's books and antiquarian books with dust wrappers or with beautiful bindings, all on display. So you'd expect quite a lot of colour, and you'd expect very fine and lovely things, all in really good condition. And I also hope you'd expect a warm welcome, because we're quite a friendly bunch. So, we try to make people feel at home in our shop.
Well, I always say book people are the best people. So no matter where you go, you can expect to meet some warm, friendly people who will talk to you about books all day long.
Oh, there's nothing anybody here likes better than just talking about books all day. So yes, that's perfect.
I'm pretty sure. What would you say is your biggest challenge managing an independent bookstore? But what do you personally love the most?
Okay, the biggest challenge is certainly in a city like London is dealing with, commercial rates and rents for buildings for independent booksellers is crippling, because a big city like London is really aiming at the large brands and the multinationals. So the challenge that we have as an independent bookstore is keeping our place in the high street, as it were.
Yep.
So that could be a challenge.
Of course.
The joys of bookselling far outweigh that, because you meet interesting people and you deal with beautiful books, and it's a lovely world to be in. And you always feel as if you're passing on something of value. So as long as we can keep doing that, I think we'll have our place.
For sure. Henry Sotheran has been in business for over 200 years. I did a quick some math in my head, especially the London location. So that for sure is definitely over 200. What would you say allows for, a bookstore to stay in business that long?
We have been fortunate in that we've, at various points in the past, we've taken on some really big collections. So the name of Sotheran's has become a bit of a legend, really, in the antiquarian book dealing world. We dealt with Charles Dickens's library, for instance. The Folger Library was set up with a number of first folio Shakespeare's that came from Sotheran. So we've got a long sort of history, and people remember that. And people still find our old catalogues from 1880, whatever, and are interested in us. So we can sort of draw on that history, really.
I see.
And we've got good backing. We've had a family who's run us now for over half a century.
Wow.
Who love the brand and love the shop. So I think that history and that heritage goes a long way to keeping a business like us going.
Oh, it sounds that way, and that's amazing that you have that history that you can bank on, and that family. Half a century, that's a long time to stay with a bookstore.
Yeah. We've always been a family-owned business. It's not the Sotheran family anymore, but still, it is it's a privately owned affair, which is nice.
No, of course, for sure. Okay, so we're going to switch things up with some quick-fire questions, and these are a bit personal to you. I already know about the coffee and tea, but are you a fiction or non-fiction reader? What would you prefer?
Fiction primarily, yeah.
Short stories or poetry?
Generally poetry.
Wow, okay. Morning reader or night owl?
Can I say both?
Yeah, I guess you're allowed, but how? How do you read both times a day?
Probably nighttime would be my favourite.
Nights are your favourite. Do you read with your tea in the morning or your coffee?
No, I don't actually. If I'm doing that, then I'll be looking at my emails and things, I'm afraid, quite prosaically.
Okay, no problem. Life on the beach or life in the mountains for you?
In the mountains.
Oh, okay. Where would you go?
Scotland is beautiful. I really like various bits of Scandinavia. So, yeah, stick me up a fjord somewhere, I'd probably be quite happy.
I like the northeast of England. I like the north. Yeah. I like Scotland as well. So I'm on board with that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spring or autumn?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Spring or autumn? Seasons?
Autumn. Maybe because it's my birthday in autumn.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. So back on the bookstore train. What changes have you seen in the bookstore business over the years? You've been with Sotheran, you said, for 15 years, so that's a bit of
15
time.
15 years, yeah.
What changes have you seen?
It's been interesting because that period has probably been the period when, online selling has become more and more important, and Amazon and eBooks and whatever have taken over. So obviously there have been changes there. Things that we once would have done quite well within the shop, we no longer sell at all because, people could just undercut you online. So it's meant that we've had to probably become a bit more exclusive and a bit more selective about what we choose to put in the shop, which in many ways is a good thing. It's made us focus really out of stock a lot more.
Right.
The other side of that is that it means that fewer people come out shopping. They'd rather sit at home and do it online, which means that fewer people have been coming into the shop, which means you have to make more of an effort to bring people into the shop. So it's meant that we've had to do, more events or, special occasions. And again, that's nice. It's good to have an occasion.
No, of course.
I think recently we've seen maybe things moving back the other way. So I think we're beginning to see younger people coming into the shop because they're beginning to see a physical bookshop and physical books as being an attraction, something a bit more special than a Kindle or whatever. And so we're seeing younger people coming into the shop more and being more interested in older books or prints. So I think that's quite a recent development, but it's a welcome one.
No, for sure. I think for me personally, it's, we have our gadgets with us all the time. We can do so much online and we can stay in at home. You can order food in, you can order your clothes. You can do all your shopping. You never really have to leave home. But I think, we're humans, we're social, so we do want to get out. So I think there is that benefit of having physical spaces. Else we'd have nowhere to go or anything to do, really. So
no, quite. We're physical beings in a physical world, so it makes sense that we want to go to real places and touch real things, I think.
Oh, absolutely. So just real quick, if you could give anyone any advice if they were thinking or planning to open an independent bookstore, what would you say?
I would say make sure you've got something really unique to offer to people. One of the sort of fallouts of online shopping is that a shop that is just a bookshop will really struggle, but a shop that's got something extra to offer, whether it is an event space or a particular type of book, that's you've got to make yourself look different and feel different, and you've got to offer a really lovely sort of real life experience for people. And if you could do that, then why not go for it?
Okay. Sounds like some solid advice there. Are you reading anything right now?
I am reading Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood at the moment, which is, I don't know whether you know this, it's a memoir of a woman who grew up in a family where the father is a Catholic priest, but has been allowed to keep his wife and children.
I see.
And it's extremely funny. It's great. A really, really funny book. So I'm enjoying that a lot at the moment.
Okay.
I don't come from a Catholic background, but it sounds hilarious if you do, if that book's anything to go by.
Okay, I'll give it a look. I do not know that title or that author, but I'll be sure to look it up. What is your go-to reading genre? What would you pick up in a heartbeat?
I would probably always end up leaning back on a good old Victorian novel. Some Thomas Hardy or some George Eliot or something like that.
I love Thomas Hardy. He's my favourite.
Yeah. Thomas Hardy's great, and I find even though the books are brutal and lots of horrible things happen in them, something weirdly sort of reassuring about the fact that, I don't know, there's a sort of continuity between now and then. People were still horrible then and they're still horrible now. We still have books to take us through it, kind of thing.
No, absolutely. I just had a reread last week of Far From the Madding Crowd, so I'm a Hardy fan. I'll reread it a million times. That's just a great book. It will help me get out of a reading slump, so to say, and that's what it did.
That's a great book, and The Woodlanders by Hardy is one of my favourites, actually.
Yeah.
Which I don't think so many people read, but they should do. It's a lovely book.
No, I know that one as well. Yep, that one's great as well. Are you looking forward to any books this year?
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to Ian McEwan's new book. I think it's Machines Like Me, which is interesting because he says it's not science fiction. He doesn't want it to be called science fiction, and yet it's about robots and artificial intelligence. So it's interesting to see. I'll be interested to see why he doesn't consider it to be science fiction. But also, I'm sure it's going to be a great book because he's a wonderful writer.
Okay, I don't know that one either, but I will be looking that one up as well. Thank you. You've been giving me a lot of recommendations, and I'm sure our listeners will have some new books on their radar as well.
Well, I hope so.
Yep. So in one sentence, or two, because I know one sentence is hard, what would you like everyone to know about you and Henry Sotheran?
Okay, that's a difficult one. Okay, so although we are the oldest antiquarian book dealer in the world, obviously that implies a lot of history, it would be nice, I think, if people realise that we're also nice and friendly and informal. We're quite a youthful team with quite a youthful outlook. So we're trying to sort of marry up our history and our heritage with a slightly more informal and less reverent, perhaps, approach to bookselling than that implies. That was a very long-winded sentence.
No, not at all. No. Normally I'm used to getting one sentence or two or three or more. So no, I think that was quite comprehensive.
Okay, I was doing several sub-clauses at least, but that's okay.
No, you can go on a rant if you need it. No, you're fine. So are you seasonal with your hours, or are you open all year round?
We're open all year round, 9:30 until 6 Monday to Friday, 10 until 4 on a Saturday. On Sunday we're allowed to rest.
Bless you.
And that's
Good.
the same all year.
Yep, sounds like a plan. Alrighty, Chris, I think we've covered quite a bit today. Thank you so much for coming on Biblio Happy Hour. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I greatly enjoyed myself.
Alrighty, everyone, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and special thanks to Chris Saunders from Henry Sotherans Limited for coming on the show. I will leave all the links for Henry Sotherans Limited in the show details so you can connect with them. Don't forget to follow Biblio Finder and Biblio Happy Hour on social media and sign up for our newsletters. Don't forget to follow Biblio Finder and Biblio Happy Hour on social media and sign up for our newsletters. To listen to full episodes of our podcast, get behind-the-scenes content, weekly business updates, perks, and more, head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder. And wherever you're listening, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. When you do this, you're helping us to reach a larger audience, and it is one way you can help us to put independent bookstores at the forefront and make Biblio Finder plus the show a success. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you in our next show.